All right. Again, thank you all for being here. I'm hoping to at least spark some interest in a little more using sound and audio. And I know that with the elementary students getting iPads, I think was it like the K through 3, I think this year. This hopefully will be relevant because there's certainly a lot of audio tools that are available. You can't hear anything. I can hear it. Hang on. All right. Okay, it's kind of nice. So, all right, hang on. I think. All right, we good? You can hear? I feel like you should be able to. All right, we're good now. All right. I can do that. All right, so I definitely put the microphone up a little bit more so everyone should be able to hear. Top left. All right, there we go. Took it off automatic mode. So talking about audio, this is more about talking and conversations that students are doing. And I want you all to think about, like, why is it do we listen to audio? So this is a Nearpod kind of a open collaboration board. And you may notice down here on the tools that it does have an option to record audio, which you can. There is a little microphone here, and you can use that to add some sounds. Or you can certainly post some text here in the chat, and you'll see some of the responses start coming up. So certainly a lot of great comments. One of the other cool things about the collaboration board, if you're not familiar with it, but it allows you to kind of take a look at some of the board comments, and you can start hearting them as you come in. So yeah, so I see a lot of great comments about multitasking and those that are more auditory learners. The power of being able to pause and re-listen. I think that's why things like the Flip Classroom initiative or teachers posting, let's say, video or audio recordings for students to listen to and then re-listen to, that's very clutch. Yes, I was listening to a podcast and they started to say, well, how many people actually listen to podcasts and aren't doing anything else? Like they're just like sitting there enjoying their coffee and just listening to a podcast. Not many. Let's see. All right, let's see if I can get the audio going here. Hopefully this will work.
Hello, my name is Ashley Ireland from Annandale Terrace Elementary School. I enjoy listening to podcasts and radio shows because it helps me focus. I'm a person that needs noise or something going on in the background in order to complete work.
All right, Ashley, thank you so much for submitting that little audio clip. I guess I'll click on Betsy's over here.
Hi, this is Betsy Whiting, and I'm the SPITS at Deer Park Elementary School. I like listening because I can multitask and do other things while I'm listening, period.
All right, great. Now, this is a great tool. So if you use Nearpod in your instruction or have your teachers use it, this, we were like just starting to get into it, but the flexibility of this particular tool is fantastic. And you can have students just post audio comments. So kind of move on a little bit here. So what is the point of today's session? So main idea is to understand the benefits of using studio created audio in instruction. Look at different audio formats and why you would use them. So podcast certainly is one of them, but there are a number of other different, I guess, formats, if you will. I use the word formats. I'm a radio guy. I have done about 8 years or so of college radio, both as a student and a volunteer. And so like radio and audio has always been one of my passions. So enjoy it. But yes, in radio, we have different formats of radio stations. And so it kind of matches up. All right, so what are some basic recording needs and editing tools that are available to all? I will apologize a little bit. I didn't really think too much about iPad that much, but iPad does have like sound recorder. They do have some good native tools on there that you can use to record and then post audio. Practice different ways to submit audio creation, and then reflect on some next steps and maybe some advanced techniques. So those are hopefully the outcomes for this morning. Yes, college radio is fantastic. My radio station, not to get too much on a tangent, was free format. And so once you had a show, you could do whatever you want. So typically my own shows started out as a classical music show that then progressed into probably metal or whatever other music form I was feeling at the time. So many great memories. All right, let's talk about the why a little bit. So one big reason is that one big reason to encourage your students to create audio in many different ways is that it utilizes different communication skills in speaking and critical thinking, organizing thoughts, conveying opinions, interviewing, and more. So a lot of these skills that kind of run through all the curriculums, your portrait of a graduate skills, they're all hit by asking your they're all hit up by using audio and having your students create them. So there are many different audio projects and like just little different opportunities that students can use to create. And some of them are very simple, like that little warm up I just did. That was a very simple kind of thing. And it can go all the way from that to something even more incredibly elaborate, like having students create full podcasts like you see over here. And finally, it's fun. It really is. Like every time I brought a group of students down in this TV studio to either record a podcast or not audio related, but if they were filming videos and all of that, then that was such a big thing. So just to recollect, if you are joining us late, we are on Nearpod, and you can go to join.nearpod.com and use the code that's up at the top of the presentation. That's CX5AM. And yes, I will post the Google Slides in the Schoology after this. All right, so I do want to give you guys a clip. So this actually is a group of our level 3 ESOL students, and they were very new to our school. I think they've only been in our school, most of them, for about a year or so. And they were tasked with creating a podcast to kind of reflect upon that experience. And they just took to it. Like this was really the inspiration for this. This was the inspiration for this presentation, was just kind of seeing the power of this. So here's a short clip. Sure. See if I can.
What has stood out to you from these experiences we have had so far? Sajida?
What stood out to me and the most experience I've learned is that you can always go to the library. It's always open in school hours and after school. And you can always ask Miss Shaw or Miss Policelli for anything, information about college, school, and stuff like that.
Hasna?
What stood out to me was I know how to use a print now. I didn't know how to use it.
Oh, me too.
And Miss Shaw's office, because I didn't know where that was, and I could go there and learn about more college and career and dental academy and stuff.
I've learned that you have to take a pass in the morning to get to the library, to come to the library. Mm-hmm. You can always talk to your counselors for help and schedule.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I also thank you, Lamisha. I agree with that too. I feel like the college and career center is really helpful for students who want to go to college and also want opportunities for jobs and scholarships.
All right, and this is a clip again. Like these are students that are learning English right now. Like they're really getting adjusted to the language. And one of my favorite things about this whole experience was that they came into the TV studio. They came around this little podcast area I'm using right now, and they like the microphones kind of melted away in the background and they just had a conversation, just kind of see them talking and working off each other. And the students were assigned a role. So there was a host that was assigned that had the questions prepared, and the other students were then asking questions. And I was able to kind of step in as the SBITs and talk about, well, how do you want this to sound? And how do you want, the flow to go? And when should you reintroduce people? And what should be something that you say when somebody is done answering a question, and kind of going through all that kind of stuff. And yeah, it was just a ton of fun. It was definitely one of my favorite projects from last year. So much so that 2 of these students are going to join my Lancer Media organization and make podcasts this coming up year. So they're really excited about it. But yeah, so I've worked, still want to work a little bit more with special education students this year. But this has been like quite a blast. So that's going to be my goal. All right. So after a lot of the introductions, I'm going to talk briefly about the formats, and then we're going to talk about some of the submission tools, some basic editing, and then a little bit of reflection at the end. So as far as audio formats, so one way that you can ask students to record audio is using explanations or descriptions. So having them put together a script to describe or explain a topic or a vocabulary term. You could create a audio glossary that can get posted in Schoology. You can use discussion tools and things like that, varying the length of responses. So maybe you just want to have students like put somewhere quickly, like a short response or a short sort of reaction to a different vocabulary term. Again, this is like kind of great to all contents, and this would be perfect for Schoology discussions, for Padlets, Flipgrids. Now it's Flip. I forgot to edit all the Flipgrid references. Sorry. But yeah, so it's also a great place for that. Speeches or monologues. So there are a number of different types of speeches that you could do, either informational, you could do persuasive speeches, maybe tryouts to be like a student speaker at an event or something like that. This would also be great for drama classes, for theater classes, where students can record monologues. They can provide feedback to one another about their different speeches and what they're saying. Maybe you want to do something like a poetry slam, or share stories, or do something that is fiction. So those could be some opportunities there. I think like a virtual poetry slam or something where people can submit things like recorded as a poetry slam might be pretty good. Somebody that actually, one of my students that just graduated is getting really involved in poetry slams. I saw some of the work. It's fascinating. Okay. And again, it gives students kind of a chance to organize their thoughts. So if they know they have to speak a little bit longer about a topic, maybe like a 3 to 5 minute speech, even longer, then that really opens up a lot of doors in terms of organizing thoughts. Like, what do you want to say? Kind of outlining your thinking. How much should you put that's totally prepared and scripted versus how much is kind of riffed off the cuff a little bit that you just have like notes for, or bullet points, right? So something like this presentation, even like I don't have a script, but I do have notes that I'm using, and I've prepared ahead of time. So kind of teaching students like that technique through speeches or monologues, and then recording them and sharing them with one another. Interviews are another great format that you can use, and interviews can come in so many different types. Either a prompt, like interviewing each other, like the podcast clip I just played was a lot of interviewing each other about what they liked about the school, or what they thought was very useful to them. What are their goals? What are their aspirations? And this is another opportunity for student voice. You really get that. You can really kind of learn a lot of information about them, or try and build that comfort level where they're willing to share a little bit more than maybe they have sort of in the past. So you could also do something where they are creating an interview, quote unquote, where they have to play a role, either like a biographical kind of thing or an important figure. Some sort of like mathematician or a scientist, maybe. So there's a lot of different things. Yes, we will definitely get to how you share the audio in a moment. We'll talk a lot about that. All right, newscasts. I love newscasts. I do run the news show here at Lewis and from our TV studio. This little picture, and I'm being a little gratuitous, but these are two of our wonderful anchors that have done some great work for us. But having students prepare like radio newscasts, like, that 90s show News Radio. Y'all remember that one? What a good show that was. Very underrated. Anyhow, so you want to talk about current events. Maybe they have to prepare a newscast about what's currently going on. Maybe you have to do something that's like a contemporary or modern topic in one of the content areas that they're doing. Like maybe having students do a newscast about like the James Webb Telescope and what are some of its discoveries it's already doing, or what's the latest on Mars or something like that. Maybe international events, maybe like school. One of the little project topics I would love for a teacher in our building to take on is to do what newscasts would sound like in different fictional worlds. So like, what would the Harry Potter newscast sound like? Or if you did, let's say like Romeo and Juliet or something like that, like what that news show would be like. If you remember the 90s movie where that's how the narrator began, it looked like a news show, something like that. Like, and that also is another avenue into teaching like a different set of skills. So like journalism, you could talk about like inverted pyramid and how do you organize a newscast where the most important details are at the top and you kind of work your way down. How do you quote people? Research skills. Like there's a lot of different, journalism skills that kind of tie into this. So once you really build all this together. All right. And podcasts, I think, is the final one. And this sort of encompasses a lot of different formats where you can have a lot of different podcast shows. You can have like an interview show, debate, discussion. They can draw from their interests. Like, just like there's a 1.5 billion podcasts for everything, like you can tailor a short podcast where students are creating, and most of the time, as anyone who has tried to put a podcast together, like myself, that it takes a lot of work. It takes a lot of different skills to put it together, between editing it and recording and making, critical decisions. So like, what are you going to cut? What are you not going to cut? So there's a lot of different kind of ideas there, and it's a great, collaborative kind of effort. So maybe you're assigning some students to be the hosts, like some students are your like producers and they're helping put the questions together. Maybe one of the other students is more of an editor. You can kind of play to the different strengths of all the students in the group in a different kind of podcast. So yeah, a lot of different opportunities there. Okay, so those are some of the formats that I've kind of gone through quickly, just to hopefully get some ideas sort of stirred here and there. So now, in terms of the process, like what are some of the tools out there that we can use? So I think two of the simplest ways that you can do this is actually through Schoology, and either the discussion tool, where you can record both your initial observance and also you can record responses in audio by using the microphone, and I'll take you right to the built-in microphone on the computer, and you can go ahead and kind of get like a back and forth into that. You can also use the quote-unquote flavor one assignments. When you click on submit assignment, that will either bring up like this window that you can just record in the native Schoology app. You can also upload an MP3 file or like an audio file that you've created previously. So, this is done like built in Schoology, and it doesn't take a ton of effort. And it doesn't take a lot of learning new tools or getting students to kind of move elsewhere in order to accomplish this. So Schoology for sure would be maybe one of the easiest entry points for something like this. Okay, Google assignment. So the flavor 3 of a Google assignment may be another way that you can encourage students to record. So you can use the assignment tool as a structure to assign something with students, maybe give them a prompt, give them a doc with like an organizer that you make a copy for everybody, and they have to go and put everything together. And one of the neat things about the Flavor 3 assignments is just like Google Classroom, not only do you have the document that was shared and copied for all the students, you also have this add files function. And so students can go and record on their own and then upload their audio file into their Google assignment tool. And then teachers can go and listen to it and all, kind of get that. You lose a little bit of like the collaborative work because it's just kind of dumping a file. But if you're just doing an assignment or a project where students are submitting their audio, that's another good way to get there, because all these things get shared into a folder, or you have, teachers have access to all that. All right, so Flipgrid. So the new Flip or Flipgrid, whichever you want to call it, they do have an audio only function, and you can just add a response and actually, go kind of show you what I'm talking about here. So this is a Flip. There's a link at the end of this presentation that I certainly would welcome responses. But when you add a response in Flip, so under the settings, yes, it's going to tell me that my camera's being used. Yes, that's fine. Oh, all right. Sorry, using it. Can I get that to work? I know I don't need you to retry the camera. Just give me the audio. All right, fine. Well, it's there under the settings. Yes, I know my camera's being used for Zoom. But in the settings for Flip is use mic only. I think one of those things. Yes, you may need a parental permission on Flip. I don't quite remember if that was one of the ones that were purged off the list of parental consent. I'll take a look. But this would also be a great place to accumulate responses. It also gives students an opportunity to comment on things. So for me, all right, so that's like mine. And you can add like a comment here. I don't think you can record a comment just like you could an initial response. Again, it's not going to work for me because cameras are being used. But Flip also, so Flip is a good tool to kind of get a chain and a discussion going. And if you just want to use audio and not have the kids have cameras on. So yes, if you get the parental consent. All right, Padlet. Padlet is another different tool that can be used. And I do have a link to this Padlet here in the presentation. I can go and throw that in the chat. So there we go. All right. So if you want to like kind of throw an audio response in Padlet, you can certainly do that. Basically by just double clicking anywhere, and you can click on the three dots here and go to audio recorder. And then it's going to share the microphone. It's going to go and record when you click the little microphone button here. So since you all are here, we're going to take a little bit of a pause for a little bit of reflection. I'm going to invite everyone on the Padlet to look at the prompt I posted and choose one of the audio formats and describe an application for it in a learning activity. So maybe something that like a lesson or some other favorite thing that you've done with students that you could then go ahead and add like some audio to it. So give everybody maybe like a minute to go check that out or so. All right, seeing some responses there. Find the error. Ooh. All right, I welcome everyone to kind of finish the responses if they wish. And oh, morning meetings. Now I'm liking it. All right, I want to hear about morning meetings here.
This is Rachel Lanier. I'm the SPITS at London Town, and something we use Flip for at my school is to encourage students to share how they are, how they show portrait of a graduate attributes, and then we have little clips about how I'm a communicator, or I'm a goal-directed and resilient individual, etc., on our news show. And something else I'm excited about in terms of audio is Wixie has a new feature where students can click the microphone right in a text box and dictate their text right into their Wixie project, which I think will be great for developing writers.
There we go. Now I'm on you. Very cool. All right. So I encourage everybody to kind of keep on that. They wish, but I will need to move on a little bit. All right. So basic recording and editing. So the native tools, so oftentimes like Padlet or Flip or Schoology have their own built-in tools, but maybe you want to go explore other things that are available to our students. Now this is going to be maybe a little more geared towards the students that have the laptop, since I'm going to talk a little bit about Audacity and WeVideo here, but still, yes. I mean, I do wish Google had its own thing. That's true. But hey, we all have an Audacity on our image, so there's that. I did link to it for later viewing. There is a quick guide I created about using Audacity. If you've never seen Audacity before, typically you can find it by just searching in the Windows bar here, and then just typing Audacity. And then there it is. I think it's on everybody's image. It's on the student images. So you don't really have to do too much to get it. It's already pre-installed. And when you get there, it does look a little intimidating. So it looks like this, and it looks very blank. So in terms of super basics on Audacity, there are a lot of great YouTube tutorials out there that I encourage everybody to check out. I had to check it out because I wondered what the heck happened to the move the waveform tool. And then someone posted that it was actually combined in another tool. And I said, oh, that makes sense. But so the main thing here is about the microphones. So you can make sure that the microphone that you want to use is selected. So this is the one I'm using. The microphone array is typically the one on the laptop. And then where it's coming out of. And the other thing you can do is to test your microphone is to click in the little audio monitors here, the little levels, and you'll notice that my audio levels are going up and down. So we're ready to go whenever I want to record. So you can always check to make sure your microphone is working by just using that. Now, typically for audio, you do want to have your audio kind of be in this range here. I'm not going to get too much into what the decibel level means and all this kind of stuff, but typically around -12 to -6 over here. Like in the green area, the green to yellow area is really where you want. And you can start recording. So now the audio format, the audio wave is recording. You'll see that it's actually doing this over here. And we can just stop it whenever we want. So there's that. Now, if you stopped it and then you wanted to record again, it's actually just going to go and continue on that same track. Oop, I want to stop it. You can add tracks to this. Audacity is a multi-track recorder, and you can add music and sound effects and all this other stuff. But again, this is to try and start small. I know I'm getting a little too ahead of ourselves. And all right, so the cursor tool is probably the one that you'll use the most. So if you don't like something, maybe I don't like this little clip here, I can simply like highlight it and I could just hit delete and it goes away. So that's fine. You can do all sorts of effects and all of that. Now, the other thing I kind of mentioned is when this little cursor tool is selected, that if you put the cursor to the like kind of this off-white part, and then you'll see the little hand, you can move your waves around. So if you want this part to be first, you can do that. Should be able to do that. All right, maybe you can't do that on this. I'd have to go add a track. And then I can move you down and then move this one over. And now there we go. That's how to give it a little bit of runway. Anyway, so once you've recorded and then once you have kind of trimmed it down a little bit and you feel really good about it, to create a sound file for it is simply go to File. In this case, you want to export it. Saving in Audacity, like save project, will save it as like it'll basically save like this sort of timeline that you can come back to, edit, and eventually like export. But if you're ready to actually save it as something, export as MP3 is probably the easiest way to do it. And then it will let you save it as a name, and then you can do whatever you want. You can upload it to Google Drive. You can upload it to Flip. You can do all sorts of fun stuff. So that is that. So that is Audacity in the smallest nutshell possible, or at least enough to open it, record sound, and save and trim a little bit. Again, there are if you start getting into YouTube, there's a lot of different Audacity tutorials that are available to you. But I want to get too much ahead of myself. And of course, if anybody out there wants some more help with Audacity or audio editing or things like that, I would love to come and collaborate or help everybody. So another way to record audio is in WeVideo. So WeVideo is available for staff for free to use. It's also available for students to use as well. It does, student subscriptions do cost a little bit. You kind of make that arrangement through your finance tech and TMPC. But WeVideo, not to plug a totally different kind of project I love doing, but WeVideo is actually fantastic for collaborative video projects. But also it has an audio recorder as well, and you can do something similar with it. Oh, really? 30 student subscriptions this year? That's awesome. Normally for WeVideo, I think we purchased somewhere in the neighborhood of like, I think last year we purchased like 200 or something like that were used in different classes. But 30 is a start. Thank you, Rick. Okay, so like if I'm in WeVideo here and I want to record, so I want to do the actual easiest way to start recording is to do the podcast function, because then it's going to put it in audio mode, and then you want to attach it to a project. Again, there are a lot of good WeVideo tutorials out there. But really, you just start with the little button here to record, and it's going to give you a little countdown. And I am now recording in WeVideo. That is all. All right, so yeah, like the preview, which I will not do, and I'm going to hit save. And this will now put it in a timeline over here. So you have your voiceover track, which is what this is considered. You can add music, and WeVideo has a lot of great sound effects and also music. So you can have students use WeVideo, import some of the music here into their projects, and really bring it to give it like more of that professional feel. You can add sound effects. You can do all sorts of stuff. The search bar is very powerful. You know, if you want like, I want like a spring, I want like a boing boing kind of spring, it's going to give you all sorts of different, like, oh, look at that spring. No, or like a blip or something like that. Whatever you kind of imagine, right? My mind, of course, is blanking on kind of sound effects I can Car honk, maybe that would be a little bit better. All right, so I got a car honk. Okay, there we go. Yes, we're good. Okay. But again, like this can all be then just like dropped into your little file here. And you can put it all together. And then when you're done, you would just click finish and give it a name. And then you can export it as audio only in WeVideo or put it in Google Drive. And then that could be shared with teachers there. Also downloaded or, added to any other thing that you're doing. So what's great about WeVideo is that it's also collaborative. So many students can work on a project at the same time. So you could have like one student looking for sound effects, like one student kind of chopping it up, one student looking for the intro or outro music, so you can get a lot of students' fingerprints like all over these projects and getting them going. So I do love WeVideo for those reasons. All right, we only have a few minutes left, so I'm not going to talk too much about microphones. Your laptop microphone works fantastic. There is a link over here that I do post. It's from B&H. There's a lot of different places. I will also tell you to work with your finance technician on this stuff, because if there are microphones available in the Focus catalog, to kind of work with your finance tech or T-Spec into purchasing those. I know IT is looking to streamline a lot of the equipment buying these days. So if you find some microphones over there, that would be interesting to use. But again, like USB microphones plug in directly to the computer. So what I'm using is kind of a glorified version of that, where I have a microphone here. It's plugged into an audio board that then is into my computer using USB. And so I can record a podcast in 4 microphones, all sorts of stuff using this device I got right now. So, for a little bit of an investment, you can do a lot. There are some great USB microphones that are like $30 or so. That really enhance it. But of course, the laptop microphone that everyone has access to works great too. All right, recorders. Again, this is like super next level kind of stuff. But you could look into like Zoom recorders, or like this device, which is what the earlier version of it I'm using right now, is the Rodecaster. So if you were looking to get serious into like podcast recording or like creating like a studio, and you were able to get some resources for this, it is a fantastic device. I've used it in a lot of different applications, and won't get into all of its features, but it could do a lot. It could do microphones. It could do playing like music off a phone. It could do phone calls. It's got its own like library of effects. These sort of recorders. Zoom recorders are also great in that they can be like handheld devices that have their own microphone on them, and you could just like literally like just use them there. Yes, this is the Procaster 2. That's the picture of it. I don't own it. I go ahead and get the Procaster 1, and then Rode's like, hey, we got the 2. It's out. Anyway, so little handheld Zoom recorders are also a nice little tool. And these Zoom recorders also have microphone plugs. So you could use a Zoom recorder. You could bring it and like 2 microphones to a classroom, or up to 4, depending on the recorder. And then go and record like in classes. You don't necessarily have to have like your own dedicated studio space. So there's that. All right. So a little bit of reflection, and then that's really it. So if you haven't done so already, here's the link to the Flipgrid, which is over. I should have went back. And I'll put that in there. So the flip is there. So if you do wish to post something about that, oh, look at that. Would greatly appreciate it. But yeah, it's pretty much our time for today. I know I went and kind of spewed a lot at once. But yes. And also finally, to be incredibly self-promoting, I do have a podcast that kind of covers this. The second episode of my podcast actually does a lot of the descriptions and kind of similar to what I presented today. And there's a link to that over here. If you've never used Nearpod with links that are in the slides, so this is using Google Slides, but then upload it to Nearpod using the Nearpod extension. Like clicking on the box will actually open up this dialogue, which is like, oh, which one do you want to use? So feel free to check the podcast out. It's available on Spotify and all that kind of fun stuff and other sorts of things. So I do appreciate everybody being here today, and I can certainly stick around if anyone's got other questions or anything else. And I think that's kind of it. So again, a lot to think about, and I'm always available if anyone wants to reach out and collaborate for sure. So thanks, everybody.
Hey, Adam.
What's up?
This was great. Thank you so much.
I appreciate you being here.
Yeah, I learned a lot. And I had a question for you. I just emailed you about this, but we met at ISTE, the folks at Soundtrap for Education. And they seem to have a lot of good education resources, and they're partnering with KQED to develop, podcasting resources and how to record. Well, Matt, if you love Soundtrap, they want to connect with someone who might be interested in getting it off the ground at their building. So if anybody's interested in being connected with their rep, let me know.
Sure. I'd welcome that for sure.
Oh, you're already using it, Matt. Okay, Adam, I'll connect you with the guy. Matt, if you're already using it, do you want to be looped into the conversation or not?
I mean, sure, loop me in. Yeah, we did something with the music classes for composing music to reflect on mental wellness. So yeah.
Oh, great. Okay, that's perfect. Then we have elementary and we have high school.
Yeah,
and right now we don't have a data privacy agreement signed with them. It's kind of like we're going back and forth trying to get something worked out. But I think they might be more flexible if